Hello, welcome. Happy Easter to you. Hope that you are taking a little bit of time out of the studio today. Just not taking any time off of Facebook, of course, so that you're here to join me for this live broadcast. I'm decked out in full Red Sox garb today. Let's be honest, they screwed the pooch yesterday pretty bad. It was not a good opening day for me. It was not a good night for me last night. I was pretty emotional about it. So I got my Red Sox hoodie, got my Red Sox hat, and praying for better results for today, for Good Friday. But that's not why we're here right now. That's not what we are going to talk about. What I would like to talk to you guys about today is limiting beliefs and the idea of limiting beliefs, and hopefully try to help you to identify some limiting beliefs that you might have in your own life and in your own business. It's a subject that I really didn't know a lot about until a few years ago. But then once I started to read a little bit more about it and developed a little bit more of an understanding about it, it was kind of like having that aha moment. That aha moment of, oh, this is what I've been doing wrong. This is the challenge that I've been facing with. So the easiest limiting belief to identify, and the one that is almost universal: how many times on a given day do you use the term, I can't afford it? How many times on a given day do you use the term, I can't afford it? Several years ago, that was one of the most popular phrases that ever came out of my mouth was I can't afford it. And it doesn't really seem like that harmful of a statement until you start to understand the idea of limiting beliefs and how limiting beliefs work. And all of a sudden, as you start to figure that out, you realize that the term I can't afford it is one of the worst limiting belief statements that you can have. And the more that you say it, the more that you repeat it, the more that it will become true for you. Prime example, I never went on vacations. All the years that I worked in radio, almost 20 years off and on in radio and television. And I think in that time I went away on like 2 vacations, and they weren't even legitimate vacations. And the reason why I never went on those vacations was because I always told myself I couldn't afford it. Now, I didn't actually know that. I just assumed it. I told myself. That's the narrative that I fed myself, was I can't afford it. And so I never even bothered to try to go on vacations. I took that assumption, and it became a belief that I repeated over and over and over again. And so I never went on vacations. And one day like I said, I started to read about limiting beliefs and started to get a better understanding of limiting beliefs. And that is when I realized what I was doing to myself. That's when I realized what I was saying to myself. And so I decided to do a little bit of research and find out, well, wait a minute, is it really true that I can't afford to go on a vacation? Is that in fact a fact? Or is this just a statement that I'm repeating to myself because it's something that was programmed into me in my childhood? So I did a little bit of research, and I found out, you know what, actually, going on a vacation isn't as expensive as I thought it was. And so the first year after I identified these beliefs, I actually went away on 4 trips, and I was making less money than what I made when I was working in radio. So I continued to tell myself I couldn't afford it for so many years, but it wasn't actually true. It was just a limiting belief that I had accepted as truth. So what does this have to do with voiceover? 1995, I started working in radio. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was also when I started working in voiceover, because the very first job that I had working at a radio station was in the production department. I was actually not even employed by the radio station. I was there as a high school co-op student. My job was to go and hang out with the morning show and try to learn about how radio works. But I was so committed to a career in broadcasting that I was required to be there for 2 hours a day, and lots of times I would spend 6 or 8 hours a day at the radio station because I was committed big time. I became like a part-time employee that worked for free because I was just getting high school credit. So my first job was working in the production department. I was responsible for putting together commercials. For those of you that may not know what it was like because you all have Adobe Audition, back in 1995, you recorded commercials live with music and sound effects. And so you actually would record the commercials on a reel-to-reel. Your music track would probably be on a CD. Your sound effects would be on a cart deck, and you would literally read the script while simultaneously firing off all of the sound effects and firing off your background tracks and everything, and it all was live to tape. And that's the way that you did commercial production. And so my first job was doing commercial production, and I started reading commercials for the radio station. Now I look back and realize that was the beginning of my voiceover career. At the time, I just thought that it was the beginning of my radio career. So all through radio, right up until my last radio job came to an end in, 2012, 2011? I don't even remember now. I did commercial work. That's what I did. I did commercial work because that was part of my job description. I would walk into the studio, to the production studio 30 minutes before my shift. I would get handed a stack of commercials. I'd sit there, just crank them out, rip and read, bang, 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 done, go in, do my air shift. When I started doing voiceover, though, I couldn't book a commercial to save my life. And this is a confession moment with Marc Scott. Most of you know that I consider myself to be a successful voice actor. You know, I make a good six-figure income, and I love my work, and I love what I do, and I try to help others learn how to do it as well. What some of you may not know is that none of that work is commercial. That is all corporate e-learning explainer, all the non-sexy side of voiceover. And sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit ashamed of that fact. Because I feel like even me, at the level that I'm at the income that I'm at the place that I'm at in my business, I feel like in order to be legitimate, you have to be a commercial voice actor. And so a couple years ago, went out, did a new commercial demo with Uncle Roy, spent 2 months training with him before I did that demo, trying to get ready for it, recorded the commercial demo. Many of you have heard it. It was nominated for a Voice Arts Award. I thought, this is it. This is the year that I finally get to do commercial work. Because up until that point, I was not a commercial voice actor. I told myself on a regular basis that I wasn't a commercial voice actor. And I struggled to book commercial work. I couldn't do it. So I've got this brand new demo. It's nominated for a Voice Arts Award. I'm going out. I'm going to book commercial work. Guess what didn't happen? There was no commercial work. I tried and tried and tried. I got signed with a couple of agents, which was fantastic, but I still couldn't book commercial work. And it was really frustrating for me to book that commercial work. Hey, Bradley. So I decided one of the goals that I wrote down for this year was that I was going to book commercial work with my agents. That was it. And I was going to do whatever it was going to take in order for me to be able to book commercial work with my agents. And I had done a coaching session with J. Michael Collins, and J. Michael Collins actually suggested to me that I should try to work with Everett Oliver a little bit. And I knew Everett. Everett and I are friends. We've spent some time together. We've been to a baseball game together because that's what friends do. And so I called Everett and I said, I want to work with you. And this is my goal. My goal is to book commercial work in 2018. That is my goal. I want to book commercial work with my agents in 2018. And so Everett took that goal and took ownership of that goal along with me, and we've been coaching together to work on that ever since. Now, as someone who is very well versed with limiting beliefs, I talk to you guys about it all the time. I talk about it in my videos. I talk about it in my courses. I talk about it in my blogs. So I know all about limiting beliefs. One of the very first things that Everett Oliver pointed out to me was when we were talking in one of our first sessions, I just kept saying how I'm not a commercial voice actor. I just kept saying it. I'm not a commercial voice actor. I do e-learning. I do corporate. I do explainer. I do the unsexy stuff, but I am not a commercial voice actor. That was a limiting belief that I was speaking into my own life that I didn't even realize, even though I know all about limiting beliefs and how limiting beliefs work. It took somebody else, it took an outside party to help me to identify that limiting belief that I was speaking into my life all the time. Every time I was approaching an audition, every time I was working with a coach, I'm not a commercial voice actor. I was coming to them to help, or for them to help me become a commercial voice actor. But all the while I was asking them to help me and coaching with them to be able to help me, I just kept telling myself, I am not a commercial voice actor. It was a limiting belief. And so Everett helped me identify that. as soon as he said it, it was like light bulb moment. Like I knew right away, oh my gosh, you're right. This is exactly what I'm doing. And so one of the things that I've had to work on with Everett, apart from the actual performance coaching, which he kicks my butt on, is I've had to start working on that limiting belief. And it's not something that you just undo overnight, because I've been telling myself this for years now. And I think one of the reasons why I keep telling myself that I'm not a commercial voice actor is because it makes me feel a little bit better about the fact that I'm not booking commercial work. It gives me an excuse. Well, I don't do commercials because I'm not a commercial voice actor. I'm an e-learning guy. And I wasn't specifically saying it in a negative connotation. I was just making that observation that, I'm not a commercial guy. I'm a corporate guy. So Everett helped me identify this belief, and that's one of the things that we have to work on. And Everett still kicks my butt every time when we're coaching together, and I say something like that or let something like that slip out. And so I've been journaling, journaling about that subject and trying to become more self-aware of that subject. So when I say something like I'm not a commercial voice actor, I try to correct that right away, try to grab that belief. Part of it is about habit and creating a new habit to turn around the messages that you're feeding to yourself. And so that's exactly what I've been working on. And so, Everett and I have been coaching off and on since the beginning of the year. I've done a couple of full coaching sessions with him. I've done some audition sessions with him. We just talk just for the sake of it, just because we're friends. And, sometimes I give him marketing advice for him and his business. And sometimes he just gives me some tips for commercial. And so last week I had an opportunity to audition for a regional commercial in Canada, radio spot. It's going to air in Toronto, which is a pretty large market. It's going to air in Ottawa, which is a decent sized market as well. And so taking some of the things that I had learned from Everett, some of the performance things that I had learned from Everett, and identifying those limiting beliefs that I had been feeding to myself, I went into this audition. I recorded from home, but as I got ready for the audition session, I was like, you know what, you can do this. You are a commercial voice actor. You just haven't booked one yet. And that tiny little difference from I'm not a commercial voice actor and changing that around to I am a commercial voice actor. I just haven't booked one yet. I can't even tell you, I can't even explain to you how much that changes the dynamic and how much that changes the mindset that you take into this. And that is the beginning of the undoing of a limiting belief. And so I recorded the audition, sent it off to a client. This is a client that I've first made contact with probably about 4 years ago. And I've never been able to book anything with them yet. Auditioned for them periodically, but never been able to book anything with them yet. And so, the opportunity only came up because I had followed up with them. It had been a while since we had last connected. I followed up with them, brought myself top of mind. So they sent me this opportunity. I send them an audition. The day after I sent the audition in, Everett and I were having a conversation, just one of our friendly conversations on Zoom. And I said, Everett, listen to this. And I played the demo for him. And I was like, what do you think? And he's like, it's all right. It's all right. And there was a vast improvement from that demo to where I was even a couple of months ago. I am the eternal announcer, which is another limiting belief that I've been having to work on. 20 years of radio made me an announcer, whether I want to admit it or not, and nobody wants to hire announcers anymore. I keep telling Everett that, bell bottoms came back again, and so maybe the announcer trend is going to come back again one day too. But otherwise, I got to learn how to get rid of my announcer and learn how to become more conversational from a commercial standpoint. So that was another limiting belief that we had to undo. But yesterday, I got a phone call from this company, and I found out that I booked the job. And I was so excited. We're talking about one radio commercial for the Toronto market. This is not national brand, big name, big budget, big market, whatever. But I celebrated that success like it was. Because what that told me was that for the first time, I was showing signs of success at undoing this limiting belief that I had attached to myself, that I wasn't a commercial voice actor and that I was only an announcer. And so even though it's just a small radio commercial, it's, like I said, it's not a huge deal. It is to me. And I sent Everett a message and I told Everett about it, and Everett was so excited because it's a big deal to him too. I mean, He's invested in this just as much as I am. And so as much as it is it about the performance, as much as it is about me learning how to shed my announcer and become more conversational, it was also a major mental breakthrough as well in shedding that limiting belief. And so the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about this today, and I think it's appropriate, no matter what your faith is, no matter what you believe. I'm a Christian, I'm a Christ follower. It's Easter. This is a weekend that is filled with hope for Christians, and so it just seemed like an appropriate time to share a message like this with you guys and just get real with you guys, because a lot of people think that I'm just a big deal and that I got it all together and that I got it all figured out, and the truth is that that's just not true. I've figured out certain things, but I definitely struggle with other areas as well, and I want to be real with you guys about that. And so on this weekend, on this Good Friday, on this season of hope, this weekend of hope, I got a lot right now because I booked the first legitimate commercial project that I have done since my radio days, pretty much, which is, that's 5 or 6 years ago now that I stopped working in radio. And I credit it to performance and improving performance, which I don't care what level you're at in your voiceover career, never, ever stop working on your performance. Never stop working with coaches. Never stop trying to stay onto the latest trend and keeping an eye out for what the coming trends are. But also because of this breakthrough that I've had with the limiting belief. And so what I really want you guys to do this weekend, and for those of you that watch this video later, what I really want you to think about is to start really being consciously aware of some of the messages that you're telling yourself, some of the narratives that you're telling yourself, some of the limiting beliefs that you're feeding yourself that you may not even realize. That whole "I can't afford it" limiting belief. What limiting beliefs do you hold about yourself with regards to money? What limiting beliefs do you hold with yourself in regards to your business? Do you believe that you can only achieve a certain level? Do you believe that you're only capable of doing certain types of jobs, working in certain genres? What limiting beliefs do you place on yourself? Do you really want to do animation, but you just keep telling yourself you can't do animation? Would you really like to book commercial work, but you're like me and you just keep telling yourself that you're not a commercial voice actor? Start being really cognizant of the messages that you're feeding yourself. And when you identify some of those beliefs, which are generally going to come in the form of some type of negative statement, and not to say negative statement like you're beating yourself up, but just a negative statement like, "I'm not a commercial voice actor." That is a negative statement. And as you become aware of those statements, now you have the opportunity to start to undo them. Now you have the opportunity to replace them. I am a commercial voice actor. I just haven't booked one yet. Well, now I can say I am a commercial voice actor and I have booked one now. And so just really think about the messages and the stories that you're telling yourself. And if you're not sure if you've got some limiting beliefs, talk to some people that are close to you and see what sort of things that you might be saying that maybe they're picking up on that they can help you to identify. Voiceover is a performance game, but it is also 100% a mental game. Life, business, it's a mental game. It's all about the messaging, the narrative, the stories that we're feeding ourselves. And so if we can identify those things and replace the negative ones with positive ones, as new agey voodoo woo-woo as that might sound to some of you, I'm 100% here to tell you it is legit. It is legit. So watch for those statements and think about ways that you can replace them. And so that's the message that I want to give you this weekend on Good Friday. That's something that I want you to take home with. That's your homework assignment, is to pay attention to the messages that you're feeding yourself and determine if there's any of those messages that need to get changed. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out, for watching. For those of you that are going to watch later, thank you for watching later. Have a very happy Easter. Try not to eat too much chocolate. Screw it. Eat lots of chocolate. Go for it. Eat the chocolate. Enjoy the chocolate. Guys, if you got topics that you would like to have discussed for future Facebook Lives, thanks, Bradley, for hanging out. Thank you, Christine. I see your comment there, too. Marc at markscottvoiceover.com. You can email me directly. You can leave it in the comments below as well. And thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed weekend, guys.